Her wrists were bleeding. The coarse rope bit deep into her skin, cutting past the flesh like a knife slowly turning. She couldn't scream anymore. Her throat was too dry, too sunburned, too broken. June Merriweather had been tied to the old hitching post since sunrise. Now the sun was dropping low, dragging her shadow across the dust like a ghost that wanted to escape without her. Her bare feet trembled above the dirt. She hadn't touched the ground in hours. Her legs were scraped and purple. Her white undergarments were stained dry with blood. The only thing covering her was a shredded sleeveless shirt, more holes than fabric now. She had once believed she was coming here to start a new life. Now she was just praying for a fast death. And still, somewhere out there, he was watching. She could feel it, that sick pleasure in his silence, the kind of silence that makes a person scream without making a sound. He was charming once. He called himself Barton, said the ranch was his, said she'd be safe, but everything he said had teeth. And now the lies were still biting her. She flinched at the sound of wind hitting the barn door. Her mind was foggy, body weak, tongue swollen. All she could whisper was the same thing she had whispered for hours. Please, just make it quick. And then, the crunch of boots, heavy, steady, measured. A shadow stretched across the dirt, crawling slowly toward her bare feet. She couldn't lift her head. She didn't know if it was him or something worse. Silas Calder paused just past the gate. His eyes narrowed. The rifle on his back stayed untouched. The red scarf around his neck fluttered in the wind just enough to feel like a warning. He stared at the girl in front of him, tied up like cattle, beaten, bruised, forgotten. And behind her, he saw it, faint but still standing, the wooden sign above the fence. Eliza Calder Ranch. He hadn't been back in almost a year, not since he buried Eliza under the cottonwood she loved, not since Eliza passed, not since he buried her and let the land fall silent. This hell, this violation. Of everything she loved and of everything he left untouched, the girl looked up, barely. Just enough for their eyes to meet. And in that split second, he saw it all. The fear, the shame, the silent plea. He took a step forward, one hand slowly moving toward the knife on his belt. Not the one for cattle, the one Eliza had given him. The one he never used, until now. Somewhere behind the barn. A door creaked, a chair scraped, the sound of boots again, but slower, hungrier, and Silas realized something. This was no accident. Someone was here. Someone had made this. Someone had turned his wife's land into a damn altar of suffering. He looked at the girl again, then toward the sound. His jaw clenched. How do you save someone who's already given up? And what do you do when the devil is still inside your house? Silas moved closer, boots sinking into the sand with every step. Her eyes followed him, barely open, still searching for mercy she did not believe in anymore. He cut the first rope with one quick motion. It snapped loose with a sound that broke the silence like thunder. Her arm dropped and she gasped as blood rushed back through her veins. He caught her before she fell. Her eyes flared for a second, small but real. She swallowed hard, then whispered so soft he almost missed it. I will not let him win. Easy now, he said. His voice was rough, but not unkind. You're safe now, girl. She shook her head slowly. No one's safe here, she whispered. Her voice cracked like dry wood. He'll come back. He always comes back. He gave her a canteen from his saddle. She gripped the tin with both hands, lips cracked, breath shaky. I can stand if I must, she said. Not for long, but long enough. Silas looked at her face, young, scared, sunburned, yet still alive. He laid his red scarf over her shoulders, the one Eliza had sewn years ago. It felt right, somehow, like the past was trying to protect the future. Who did this, he asked. She hesitated. Then she said it. Barton. Barton Clegg. He said this place was his. Promised me a new start if I came along. Said you'd never come back. I was fool enough to believe him. He kept glancing east toward Lander, muttering about lawmen sniffing his trail. Silas froze. His hand tightened on the knife. This was his wife's ranch, the last thing she had touched before she died, and some bastard had turned it into a den for cruelty. June coughed. holding the scarf close to her chest. He said I talked too much. He said he liked it better when I couldn't breathe. Her words hit Silas like a bullet. He looked at the rope still hanging from the wood. Now all that was left was pain and blood. He stood up, checked his revolver, and looked toward the barn. I'm going to set this right, he said quietly. You just stay still. No man like him should sleep under my roof. The wind picked up, carrying the sound of something shifting in the barn, a bottle rolling, a boot scraping. Maybe he was already back. Silas looked over his shoulder, eyes sharp now. Like the old days when he rode with lawmen across the plains. June tried to warn him, don't. He likes to play first. He likes when people think they've won. Silas didn't answer. He stepped forward, every muscle steady. He wasn't the kind of man who ran from ghosts. Not his wife's, not this devil's. Somewhere behind that barn door, something moved again. And this time, it wasn't the wind. So tell me. What would you do if the devil made your home his own? Silas moved slow toward the barn. The boards creaked under his boots. Every sound felt too loud in that empty place. He could feel Eliza in every nail, every beam, every bit of ground under his feet. It was her day on the calendar. Each summer he came to speak her name at the gate and to sweep the dust off what she built. And now some stranger had poisoned it. He stopped at the door, listening. There was a smell of whiskey and sweat, a saddlebag thrown carelessly in the corner, boot tracks on the dirt floor, and a half-empty bottle sitting on the fence post outside. Someone had been living here, living on his wife's land. He looked back toward June, sitting weak but alive in the shade. He leaned the old Sharps rifle against the water trough, close enough for her to reach. She watched him, eyes wide, clutching his scarf like it was a piece of safety itself. He gave her one short nod, then turned back toward the ranch house, inside. The old dining table was covered in dust, but someone had been eating there. Cans of beans, a knife stuck in the wood, and scrawled into the tabletop with that knife a few ugly words. Devil's home. Silas stared at it for a long moment. Then he reached down and pulled the knife free. He smiled, but it wasn't a happy smile. It was the kind a man gives when he's already decided how the night will end. A shopkeeper in Atlantic City had sworn a drifter was squatting out here. Silas had not believed it, till now. He walked out to the gate, straightened the old sign that said Eliza Calder Ranch. Then he said it out loud, voice low, steady. This land has a name, and it sure as hell ain't the devil's. A wind kicked up from the valley, carrying with it a sound. Hoofbeats, thin and far, almost lost in the heat shimmer. Could have been one rider. Could have been more. June turned her head, fear flashing again. Silas just adjusted his hat. The sun hit his face, and for a second he looked 10 years younger. He checked the cylinder of his revolver. Only 5 rounds, but that was enough. Before heading out, he told Abel Dunn at the saloon to send word to the marshal. If trouble showed its face again, riders would follow by dusk. He wasn't after a war, just justice. Then he whispered, mostly to himself, for Eliza, for her peace. Somewhere down the dirt road, a figure appeared, dark against the orange light. And the air went still, like the world was holding its breath for what came next. If you've been listening this far, take a sip of your coffee or your tea. Tell me where you're listening from and what time it is right now. And if you'd like to ride along through the rest of this story, hit that subscribe button. That way you won't miss what happens when Silas finally faces the man who called himself the devil. Because that meeting is coming, and it's coming fast. The rider slowed at the edge of the yard. Dust curled around his boots as he stepped down. For a long moment, the only sound was the saddle creaking and the low moan of wind through the barn slats. Then he spoke, and even the wind went quiet. Didn't expect company out here. Silas didn't move. He just stood near the gate, one hand resting easy on his revolver, like it belonged there. Didn't expect a thief either, he said. His voice was calm, the kind that cut sharper than anger. Barton Clegg grinned. Whiskey hung on his breath. His shirt was wet at the collar. Hands a little shaky, though his smile said otherwise. He was younger, stronger, dressed in a filthy shirt half open at the chest. His eyes had that shine, the kind only a man without a conscience can carry. He looked around like he owned the place. "So you're the husband," he said. "The one who left this fine spot to rot." Silas took a slow breath. "This land belonged to my wife. She built it with her hands, and you're standing on her memory." Clegg laughed. "Your wife's dead, old man. This land don't remember her anymore." That was the wrong thing to say. Silas's jaw tightened. The sun caught the edge of his revolver. June watched from behind the water trough, holding her breath. Shaking, Clegg tilted his head. "You think you can scare me with that pistol? I've seen men like you. Clinging to ghosts. 3 boys in Atlantic City owe me favors. You drop me, they come hunting your name." He stepped closer, boots crunching the dried dirt. "She was nothing, just like that girl you saved. I bet she screams the same way too." The world went silent. Silas didn't speak, didn't blink. He just pulled the hammer back. That click echoed across the ranch like thunder. "Say her name again," Silas said. "Go on, I dare you," Clegg sneered, his hand twitching near his holster. But Silas was faster. One shot ripped through the silence. The bullet hit the dirt right by Clegg's boot. He stumbled back, eyes wide. The drink made his draw slow, and the shake in his fingers betrayed him. "You want to stay standing. You listen close," Silas said. "This ranch ain't yours. Never was. You took something that didn't belong to you. You hurt someone under my roof, and for that, you're gonna hang." Clegg laughed, a broken sound that didn't reach his eyes. "You don't have the guts." Silas stepped forward, pressed the barrel against his chest. "Try me." The tension hung thick as smoke. Clegg's grin faltered. For the first time, he looked unsure. Maybe it was the way Silas said her name, but something changed. And just when it felt like the shot might come, a sharp voice cut through the heat. "Silas, behind you." He turned fast, too fast, and what he saw next was enough to change everything. "So what do you do when the devil isn't the only one pointing a gun at you?" The echo of that warning still hung in the air. Silas turned fast, just in time to see June standing there, holding the old rifle with both hands. Her arms trembled, but her aim was steady. Behind him, Clegg had tried to reach for the pistol he'd dropped in the dirt. June had dragged herself upright, a breath at a time, using the fence post to steady her knees. She slid the sharps off the trough, the stock heavy in her hands. She set the barrel on the rail to take the weight, teeth clenched, eyes clearing. June's voice was shaking. Silas kept his eyes on Clegg, but his voice found her. "Steady, June. Just keep it on him." "Don't move," she said. "You've done enough." For the first time, Barton Clegg stopped smiling. He heard the riders now, more than one, and he knew the bottle had already stolen his edge. His face fell, and the fight left his eyes. He dropped to his knees as the marshal's men appeared on the trail, riding hard from the valley, their badges glinting in the dusk. Abel must have sent word faster than Silas thought. It was over. Quick, quiet, almost too easy. When the lawmen took Clegg away, the ranch fell silent again. Only the sound of the wind and a crow calling somewhere far off. Silas looked at June. Her hair was tangled, her face pale, but she was still standing, still breathing, still fighting. He nodded to her, proud in a quiet way. They spent the rest of the evening tearing down the ropes, scrubbing the dirt off the beams, and washing away the blood that didn't belong there. By sunset, the place looked different, still old, still worn, but alive again. June sat on the porch, sipping water, while Silas replaced the broken sign with his own hands. He carved one small word beneath the name, peace. As the first stars came out, June asked, "You ever think the land can forgive what happens on it?" Silas smiled faintly. "Maybe not forgive," he said, "but it can grow something new if you give it time." She looked out across the open field, where the wind moved the grass like waves. The pain didn't vanish, but it softened, like a bruise fading in the sun. Sometimes that's all healing really is. Not forgetting, just finding a reason to stay standing. The next morning, June packed her small bag. Silas offered her a place to stay, maybe a job tending the horses. She said maybe tomorrow, when she felt ready. He smiled, knowing that was enough. Before she left, She looked at the ranch one more time. Then she said, "You saved me." Silas shook his head. "No, you saved yourself. I just opened the gate. Pain leaves scars, but it doesn't get to keep the land. Kindness does. Courage does. And sometimes all it takes is one hand willing to untie the rope. If you're still listening, take a deep breath, sip your coffee, and tell me where you're hearing this story from. And if you'd like to keep riding through more tales of the Old West, hit that like button and subscribe. Every story here starts with pain, but it always ends with a little bit of light. So what about you? What part of your past are you ready to let go of today?